So this isn't a best movie of the year list. This is just kind of a recap and talking about movies that I haven't talked about from this year. So first, we start off with Split. Now Split, I didn't fucking know anything about Split, and I'm still not gonna spoil anything for Split. I know it's been out for like a year, but Split was so good. It was so good, and it's great to see M. Night's back. Like, it's great to see that. And I can't wait for Glass next year. That's all I'll say. We have The Mountain Between Us. This was a very... It started off very good. There was this really cool one-shot. I don't think it was in-camera one-shot. I think it was done digitally and like stitched together and stuff. But still, it looked really cool. And it kind of set the tone a little bit. But it went from a kind of survival movie to like a generic romance between Idris Elba and Kate Winslet, and it was just like, what the fuck? And the pacing was good and bad, because it was good because the movie kept going. Like, it wasn't really too slow. It really kept going. But there was a point where they were on the mountain for like a month, and it's like, okay, how would I know that? Like, you could have just put up some text like on the bottom that just said like 1 month or like 3 days or something. That would have helped. But it was a generic, I guess, survival romance movie, I guess. I don't even know what genre this would be. Next, we have Psych the movie. This is a more recent one. Came out not that long ago. This is technically a TV movie, but it's got movie in the title, so it's a movie. I like the Psych show. The Psych show is really good. I don't remember ever finishing it. I would like to, but the movie was kind of it felt just kind of like a longer episode of the TV show, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was really nice to see James Roday and Dule Hill back together. That was really fun. Don't know why it took them like 6 years to make this fucking movie, because I remember them talking about making this back when the show was still on. Like, it's been years, and it's just like, you could have just made a TV movie, guys. Like, and they did. So, but it was a lot of fun. I like Psych. It's silly and weird and fun, and the movie was silly and weird and fun. So I guess it succeeded. Next, we have The Killing of a Sacred Deer. This is one of the weirdest movies I've seen this year. It's very artsy-fartsy and slow. And I say artsy-fartsy not in like a bad way. That's just how I describe films like this, where it's very like different and weird. It's made by the same guy who did Lobster. I wasn't a huge fan of The Lobster. I definitely like this a lot more. But I don't see myself ever going back and like rewatching this. It was fine. There were actually some really fucking tense parts between Colin Farrell and that kid who kind of looks like Ezra Miller but isn't Ezra Miller. There were actually some like legitimate tense scenes with them, and it was a really interesting concept, and I like a lot of it. But it was just a little too slow for me and a little too dry almost. I don't know if that's just how that director directs, because I've only seen one other movie from him. But if it is, I guess that's fine. It's not bad. I'm just not a huge fan of it. We have Trespass Against Us. This was a movie I just kind of stumbled onto. I saw it on Amazon Prime Video thing, and I was like, oh, Michael Fassbender's in there. I'm gonna watch it. It was fine. It's kind of a crime movie almost, in a way. It's like a crime drama, sort of. It was a decent film. Michael Fassbender was pretty good in it. Brendan Gleeson was pretty fucking good in it. This film was just decent. Next, we have Lego Batman. You guys know I'm a Batman fan. I love Batman. When this movie was coming out, I wasn't really looking forward to it. I really had no interest in fucking seeing it. But I bought it on Blu-ray for some reason. And I watched it, and I wasn't really too happy with it. I know everyone loves it, and maybe I'm just a fucking curmudgeon, and I just hate everything. That's probably what it is. But I didn't really like this film. I like the kind of parody of superheroes and stuff. I like that. But for me anyway, it didn't really feel like that. It kind of just felt like, oh, we're going to take the Batman world and just make a bunch of random jokes in the Batman world. I mean, there were some jokes regarding Batman, and there were some really like obscure fucking references in this to Batman, which I was actually kind of impressed with. For the most part, I think there was one funny joke that I was actually like verbally laughing out loud at, and that's it. And for the rest of the movie, I was just kind of bored. So I'm not really a big fan of this movie. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Next we have John Wick 2. Now John Wick, the first one, number 1, John Wick 1, was a huge fucking surprise to everyone. You know, like because it just came out of nowhere. There was no marketing really behind it. It was just this kind of small indie action film starring Keanu Reeves, and everyone just kind of checked it out on a whim, and it was great. It's one of my favorite action movies in the last like 5 years. And so when John Wick 2 was coming out, I was fucking amped. And John Wick 2, to me, steps up everything from John Wick 1 perfectly. John Wick 2 is what a modern action movie should be. It's a lot of fun. It is kind of long, and I know I say that for a lot of movies, but I'm not a huge fan of long movies. If the movie's long and it's entertaining, that's fine. Which this is, but I'm just not a huge fan of just like long, boring movies. But that's not what this is, so I don't know why I'm talking about it. Next we have Fistfight. Now Fistfight is a movie that for some reason everybody hates. Even like one of my friends, I talked to him about it, he watched it and said he hated it. And if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, I think it has like a 40%, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. But like nobody really liked this movie when it came out. But I kind of liked it. I thought it was really funny. And I watched it twice, and both times it was funny because I watched it once alone and then once with my brother. And we both thought it was really fucking funny. We love Charlie Day. We love Ice Cube. And it was really entertaining. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was really funny. And I think this is the kind of the perfect movie for Charlie Day to be in, because Charlie Day is fucking hilarious. Next is Get Out. Get Out was a movie that I kind of refuse to see because I try to avoid movies that are kind of based around race, and it's like when it kind of is about, when that's like the main point of the movie, I'm kind of just like, I'm not really into that stuff. Like I don't want politics creeping into my movies and stuff, so I try to stay away from it. But I watched it on a whim, and it actually took me by surprise. It's actually more than that. It does touch on racial issues and racial problems in modern society, but it's also really weird and trippy, and it's kind of like a Twilight Zone episode, which was really fucking cool. There's a friend character in this that I thought I was gonna hate, but I don't want to say anything if you haven't seen it, but there's a scene in it where he shows up, and I was like, yeah, like I literally like stood up and I was like, yes, like fuck yeah, and because he was great. I loved him and Daniel Kaluuya, Ukulele, however you say his name. They were both great. Allison Williams was great in it. Catherine Keener was fucking great in it. Banshee was fucking great in it. Everybody's really good in it, and it is about more than just, black people versus white people. Like, it is more than just that, which is actually pretty nice. Next, we have Logan. Now, I fucking love this film. Logan, to me, is probably the best Wolverine film we're ever gonna have, ever. And I'm a fan of the Wolverine as well. I like most of that movie until the end. Logan, I like all of it from start to finish, because it's, not only is it a nice kind of closure to the Wolverine character, and it's a nice send-off to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Patrick Stewart as Professor X, but it's kind of, anyone can kind of just jump into this movie and understand exactly what's going on. As long as you know who Wolverine and Professor X are, like, you'll get it. It's just a film. It's its own thing, and that's fucking awesome. I love movies that are just a thing. You don't have to watch the 15 other X-Men films to understand what's going on in this story. It helps, because they do kind of touch on the other X-Men a little bit, but you can watch this completely without seeing those films, and it still is a excellent fucking experience. Next, we have Power Rangers. Now, this is a film that I shouldn't like. This is a film that I went in progressively like trying to hate, but I came out loving it. I love this film. I don't get the hate around it. I get some of it, but you know, I grew up watching Power Rangers. My brother grew up watching Power Rangers. He saw the movie too. He thought it was fucking awesome. I was really shocked when I first went into it. The first scene, I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. It is a little bit darker, but it's also still cheesy and fun like the originals. But it like the opening scene is basically that short film that came out a few years back. I wanted to see a movie like that, and this is probably the closest we will ever get to an R-rated Power Rangers film. And I thought it was fucking great. I had a lot of fun with it. Next, Life. Not the Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence buddy comedy Life. The Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal space horror film Life. I hate that they did that. I hate that they named it the same as another movie. I hate that movies do that. Stop doing that. Fucking come up with a different title. This movie was really bad. Thankfully I didn't see this in theaters. I saw it with my friend Devin, and he had seen it prior to me, but when we watched it, you know, we were both just kind of laughing our fucking ass off, because it was so predictable. Like, I was being like, okay, this is how that person's gonna die. Okay, this is what's gonna happen here. This is what, and everything that I said basically fucking happened. And the ending is kind of cool. The ending is the only real cool and interesting idea in this whole film. But I'm not gonna watch an entire movie just to see a 30-second ending. It doesn't fix the other hour and a half of bullshit that I watched. Next, we have The Black Coat's Daughter. Now, this is one of those weird fucking movies where it technically came out last year, I think, but it came out this year, like, officially. I hate that movies fucking do that, but I'm counting it as this year because when you look up, you know, movies of 2017 on Google, it shows up, so I'm counting it. But The Black Coat's Daughter was honestly actually kind of fucking unsettling. It was really good, and it was kind of it was the scary that I like, which is a very niche type of scary, where it's like the less you know and the less you see, the scarier it is. And it's not necessarily, I wouldn't describe this as a horror film. It's like The Shining. The Shining to me isn't a horror film, it's a scary drama, because it's not really scary, but you just kind of feel uneasy and like kind of disturbed by it. You don't feel well after watching it. That's the best way I can describe it. And that's what this is, and I absolutely fucking loved it. Next, we have Going in Style. This was an average kind of fun heist movie. It wasn't terrible. In fact, I actually kind of liked the first 30 minutes of it. I think the first 30 minutes is actually pretty funny because it's just these three old men characters just bickering at each other and being assholes. And I thought that was really funny. But once they kind of got to the heist stuff, it felt very convenient, and it was like, none of this would actually happen. This is only happening because it's a movie. And, you know, which I guess it's fine, because they're not trying to make a realistic heist film. But to me, I was just like, this is like, there's no real like danger or tension. They just kind of rob the bank and then they get away with it. And it's like, all right, cool. Next is Colossal. Now, Colossal was a huge fucking surprise for me. I did not expect to like this film at all. One, I didn't even really know what it was. I had the general idea of what it was. But then when I started watching it, I was like, oh, that's what this is. Holy shit. It was so... Jason Sudeikis was fucking fantastic in it. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. And I like Jason Sudeikis usually, but in this, he was fucking fantastic. He was awesome in it. Anne Hathaway was great in it. Tim Blake Nelson was fucking great in it. He's not in it a whole lot, but he's a little side character. And I love his story, because at first I thought, again, I don't want to say too much, but at first I thought this was kind of a metaphor for things. You know, and in actuality, it was like, this is happening, and this is just kind of a metaphor to kind of show the audience what's happening in a way. But it isn't, and I actually really like that, because if they did the metaphor route, it would be really lame, and I would fucking want to kill myself. So I'm glad they didn't do that. Colossal is honestly one of my favorite films of the year. Free Fire. Again, this is one of those weird movies that technically came out last year, but it came out this year. I don't give a fuck. I'm putting it on my list. Free Fire was actually really good. It wasn't incredible. This film was really fucking good. It felt very Tarantino-esque, like early in Tarantino's career, like back in like Reservoir Dogs and like Jackie Brown type days. This felt very like if this filmmaker hadn't have made this, Tarantino probably would have made this. And that's essentially what it is. It's a 90-minute shootout. Like it's fucking, such a cool idea. And Charlton Copley's in it. I fucking love Charlton Copley. I wish he was in more. He's in stuff, but I wish he was in like everything ever, because he's great and he's very charismatic in this film. And everyone's great in this movie. This is just a really fun, entertaining film. Next we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now I really like the first Guardians, and when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was coming out, I didn't really know what to expect because the trailers didn't really tell us fucking anything about the story. The only thing I knew was that, Ego's in it. Okay. But when I saw it, it was actually very good. And at first I was kind of like, during the movie, the first like 30 minutes, I was like, are we gonna get to like the story? Like what's happening? There's no story at this point. Like we're an hour in and there's still like nothing has happened. But then you figure out like, oh shit, that's the story. Okay. And I was like, I like this. Okay. And you kind of get with it. And it has one of the saddest moments in any comic book movie I've ever fucking seen, which is surprising because I didn't know who the Guardians were 3 years ago when the first movie came out. So it's like, that's how much I've grown to like these characters that I didn't really fucking know. Now I'm emotionally attached to them and I love them probably more than any other Marvel character except Captain America. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is probably, next to Logan, definitely one of the best comic book movies ever. I wouldn't even consider Logan a comic book movie, but Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is definitely one of the best comic book movies ever. Next we have Wonder Woman. I didn't like this film, and apparently I'm sexist because I don't like this film. I didn't like it. I thought it was bad. I don't like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I thought the effects were bad. I thought the story was bad. I thought all the dick jokes were bad. I thought the action was bad. Everything was bad. Everything was just bad. And if you like it, it's fine. You're not wrong. I'm not wrong for hating it, but I just don't like this fucking movie. Next we have Captain Underpants. Now, Captain Underpants, I grew up in fucking Indiana. And Captain Underpants in Indiana is like a fucking, like, he's like a national hero. Like, in India, like every kid in Indiana has read Captain America. Every kid in Indiana has read Captain Underpants growing up. I read Captain Underpants growing up. My brother read Captain Underpants growing up. He was like one of my favorite characters growing up in anything ever. And when I heard they were making a movie, I was like, fuck yeah, but I hope they don't fuck it up. And it was fucking great. Like, it was the book brought to life, and it honestly had me in tears because it was just of how perfect it was, from a book to movie adaptation, because it was very faithful. It even had the fucking flip-a-rama in it, which I didn't think they would find a way to incorporate it in the movie, but they fucking did. And I thought all the voice acting was fucking great. Kevin Hart was so fucking, he was perfect as little black boy. I forget his name. What's his fucking name? I'm a fraud. I don't know what I'm talking about. Is it George? Which one's George? I don't remember. Don't judge me. Next up is The Mummy. Now, I grew up watching the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies, The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. I still haven't seen the third one. I hear the third one's not very good, so I'm not gonna watch it. I have it, but I just am refusing to watch it. And those weren't horror films. They were more fun action adventure, like Uncharted type films. And I guess that's what they tried to emulate again with this, but it just didn't work. For one, Tom Cruise, I like Tom Cruise, but Tom Cruise is not the sarcastic, like fun adventurer type character. He's not that. He's Action Man. He's not the sarcastic, like, I don't give a fuck about anything, suave. Like, you need like a Chris Pratt or like an Idris Elba or somebody for that. So Tom Cruise was horribly miscast in this. And it just wasn't, it was really boring for most of it. Like, the first 30 minutes is just narration about what's about to happen in a about what you're about to fucking see. Russell Crowe is in it for some reason because they want to set up the rest of this dark cinematic universe or whatever. And I mean, I don't think there was really anything I liked in this. There was some cool cinematography in it. I like Jake Johnson. That's about it. Next, I have It Comes at Night. Now, I am a little biased towards this film because I've been writing a script for a movie that is basically this. And so when I was watching it, I was kind of like, oh, this is my movie. Like this, it's honestly, it's almost like somebody read my script and was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna make this, you know? So I am a little biased, I guess, because it does feel exactly like the thing I'm trying to make, and it does feel exactly like something I would make. But it's just a great film. Like, even if I wasn't writing the script, I'd still be like, yo, this is dope. And it has one of the best final shots of any film, definitely of this year, but maybe ever. It has one of my favorite ending shots ever. It was fucking fantastic. Joel Edgerton is fucking great in it. Everyone's great in it. He's really the only named actor in this, the only one I know of anyway. And all the actors were really great. Next we have Baby Driver. Baby Driver's fucking awesome. I love Baby Driver. It's such a fun heist film. It kind of sucks that Baby Driver didn't come out in like the 80s. Because if Baby Driver came out in the 80s, it would be a goddamn classic. Like like this screams, like this feels like a movie from the 80s. It feels like Edgar Wright went back to like the 80s and 90s and just made a fun heist film. This is what we would get. And if this did come out in the 80s and 90s, it would be a goddamn classic. And that's a shame because there's no classics anymore. But I fucking love this film. And for a while, it was my top movie of the year. There was a movie that might have beaten it out. I won't say what. But I'll have to do that in a separate video. But it's still really fun. I watched it like 4 times in a day once. It's so much fun. Next we have Okja. Okja, however you say it. That Netflix movie. This I didn't even really like give a fuck about this at all. But I like kind of Japanese, like, I think those are Japanese. If it's not, then I'm racist. But I'm pretty sure it was Japanese. I like that kind of like weird, quirky feel they have to their films. And this was honestly a lot of fun. I mean, it's not amazing. In fact, it does kind of drag a little bit near the end, and there's some stuff in it that I don't really like. But overall, I thought it was a pretty funny movie. And Jake Gyllenhaal probably gives his best performance ever in this. Next, we have A Ghost Story. This is probably the most depressing fucking movie I've ever seen, next to Synecdoche, New York. Those are the 2 most depressing movies I've ever fucking seen. But I loved this because I thought it was beautiful. This is a movie that only a film school student would like, or a cinephile would like. I couldn't show this movie to my mom. She'd be bored out of her fucking mind. There's literally a 30-minute scene where somebody's just eating. So yeah, A Ghost Story was fucking excellent. Next is SpiderMan Homecoming. SpiderMan Homecoming is my favorite Spider-Man film. I love that film a lot, and I think Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man we've ever had. I can't wait to see a sequel. I really want to see a sequel because I want to see this version of Spider-Man grow and come back and, do more shit, possibly fight Scorpion. But yeah, it was really fucking fun. It was a lot of fun. I loved it. Next we have War for the Planet of the Apes. If you didn't know, if you haven't seen my War for the Planet of the Apes review, I'm a massive Planet of the Apes fan. I own basically every piece of media for the Planet of the Apes except the comic books because there's too many of them. I've read a few of them and they're pretty okay, but I just don't own any of them. And War for the Planet of the Apes is fucking excellent. It's honestly one of my favorite Planet of the Apes films. And if Andy Serkis doesn't get an Oscar for this, like, come on. Andy Serkis is he's one of my favorite actors. And he was phenomenal in this. Give him a goddamn Oscar. Oscars, like, come on. But don't go in expecting a war film because it's not. The title's a little misleading. It's more of like an internal war almost. It's not like, don't expect to go into this movie and see Saving Private Ryan with apes, because that's not what you're gonna see. Next we have Dark Tower. Dark Tower sucked. It was really bad, and I had no interest in seeing this movie until I saw the trailer, because I didn't even know Dark Tower was a thing until like a few months ago. Like, I didn't read any of the books. I didn't like know anything about this, and then I had like no interest in it. And then I saw the trailer, and the trailer I thought was fucking incredible. I was like, this trailer is fucking awesome. I went to go see it, and the movie's very bad. It's not good, like, at all. For one, it's like 90 minutes, which is retarded. Why not make it 2 hours, 2.5 hours? Explain some shit in the movie. They don't explain fucking anything in this film. That's the biggest offense in this movie. They don't explain the world. They don't explain who Matthew McConaughey is. They don't explain fucking what he's trying to do with these kids, and like what they don't explain anything. And they have this like cool, interesting world where it's kind of like Lord of the Rings with cowboys, and they're knights and shit. That's cool. But they don't fucking really elaborate on it that much. I will say the best thing about this movie is that it was so bad it made me want to go read the books. Next we have Logan Lucky. This is a weird one because I really don't know how I feel about this movie. I saw it with one of my friends, and it was good. It's just very dry. So if you're not into dry humor, you're probably not gonna like this at all. It was very dry, very dry. And near the end, you can definitely feel its length. Like near the end, it ends like 4 times. Near the end, you're just kind of like, all right, wrap it up. Like, I know what's happening, just wrap it the fuck up. But I like Adam Driver a lot. I like Channing Tatum. They honestly were funny as fuck together. I honestly need to watch it again before I give a full opinion. But I probably won't watch it again for another like decade probably. Next we have Win It All, which was another Netflix movie with Jake Johnson. And I actually really liked this film. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was really funny because of Jake Johnson. And it was very simple. It wasn't like trying to be anything like bigger than it was. It knew what it was, and it succeeded in what it was trying to do. So next we have Sandy Wexler. This is not a movie. Next we have Death Note. Death Note. This was, and I watched this movie before I saw the show. I had never seen the show, and the movie wasn't good at all. The only cool part in it was Willem Dafoe, and I was like, just make a movie about that. Like, for fuck's sakes. He was dope, but everything else was just really bad because they're trying to cram a whole season of a show into like one film, and it just doesn't work. And then my friend showed me a few episodes of the show, and I was like, wow, this show's actually really good. But yeah, the movie's really bad. Don't watch it. Next, I have the Meyerowitz Stories, which is another Adam Sandler Netflix film, which fucking surprised the shit out of me, because it's like all his other 3 Netflix movies he's made have been fucking really bad, except The Do-Over. The Do-Over was decent. It was whatever. I laughed. But they've been complete shit. Like, and then this just came out of nowhere. And this is that kind of once every like 20 years Adam Sandler actually like chooses to act in something and he's fucking fantastic in, like Punch Drunk Love or Ran Over Me or something like that. This is another one of those. He's fucking great in it. Everyone's fucking great in it. It's funny, it's dramatic, it feels like old school Adam Sandler almost, and back when he did things like Punch Drunk Love and Ran Over Me and stuff. He actually seems like he gives a shit in the movie. He's not just like, I'm Adam Sandler. That was a bad impression, but whatever. You get what I'm saying. And it surprised the fuck out of me. Like, it was fantastic. It was a fantastic movie. Next, we have I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, which is another indie movie on Netflix. I like it. I thought it was fine. It was very simple, very simplistic, very indie. Very indie. I liked it more near the end, because the end really kind of ramps up and gets really fucking crazy. But it was fine. It was a nice little indie movie. I'd probably watch it again. Next we have Thor Ragnarok. You already know how I feel about Thor Ragnarok. I don't want to fucking go back and talk about it. It's a fine movie. I didn't love it, didn't hate it. It was just whatever. Murder on the Orient Express. You guys know my thoughts on that. Thought that was fine too, except the ending. The ending was poo-poo garbage. Next we have Message from the King. This was a movie. I was just scouring Netflix one day and this just came up. It's got Chadwick Boseman in it, and this is kind of a unofficial prequel to Black Panther, because he's literally in this movie. He's playing someone from Africa, and he sounds exactly like T'Challa, and he's beating the shit out of people with like a chain wrapped around his hand. It's basically a Black Panther prequel, an unofficial Black Panther prequel. It's basically what it is, except the movie's not good. And there were scenes in it where it's like, Chadwick Boseman, I was literally like watching him and I was like, dude, you were putting too much effort into this film. Like, he was fucking killing it. He was great at it. But he was putting too much effort into this shit film. Like, this movie sucks. And he was like, you know, crying and screaming and like giving his fucking all for this shitty movie. And I was like, all right, fine. Do you, Chadwick. Next we have Justice League. You guys know my thoughts on Justice League. My thoughts on Justice League have kind of gone down a little bit. It is a mess of a movie, but it's a fun mess. I enjoy it. It's definitely better than Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is a modern B movie. It's not good, but it's fun. Justice League is somewhat good. It's a mess, but it's decent. It's a decent mess, but it is a lot of fun, and I enjoy it, so fuck you. Next we have The Founder. Again, this is one of those movies that technically came out last year, but came out this year. I don't give a shit. I put it on my list. I don't care. The Founder was really great. I love Michael Keaton. He was fucking great in it. The story, it was kind of generic a little bit at some places, but he was good enough in it to kind of elevate it, make it a little better. And it was kind of fun in a way. It kind of reminded me of Wolf of Wall Street a little bit. Like, it wasn't taking itself too seriously, but it also wasn't like a farce or satire, if that makes sense. Like, it was kind of a humorous drama. I wouldn't call it a dramedy necessarily, but it was a humorous drama. I just invented a new category. Next is Ingrid Goes West. I just recently saw this film. I don't really know how I feel about it, because it's not like a bad movie, but it's not a good one either, but it's not really fine. I have no desire to go back and watch it ever again. It's just kind of a thing that happened. Just kind of a thing. Next is Good Time. Good Time was a good time. It was actually a lot of fun. Robert Pattinson was fucking great in it. Robert Pattinson, I'm glad Robert Pattinson, like right after Twilight ended, started making like indie films and being in more shit, because he proved immediately that he was not the problem with those movies. Like, he's a fantastic actor when he's in shit that he can be a good actor in. And this is one of those things. And it's kind of a very simple, not heist film, but like a crime movie. It's very simple, and it takes place mostly all in one night, and it's actually a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. Jungle I just saw this at Best Buy one day and I bought it. I didn't really hear anything about this. Whatever, I saw Dana Radcliffe in it, and I like Dana Radcliffe, so I was like, all right, I'll buy it. The first and second half are not good at all. The third half is the best part of the movie, because it's just Daniel Radcliffe in the woods trying to survive, and you actually kind of give a shit at that point. But for the majority of the movie, it was just like the editing was bad in it. They would only stick to scenes for like a minute and just go to the next scene and then go to the next scene and go to the next scene. The actors in it weren't very good. Dana Radcliffe was good, but the other ones weren't. That dude from Chronicle, who isn't Dane DeHaan or Michael B. Jordan, was in this, and it's weird just because I haven't seen him in Dick other than Chronicle. So it's weird for him to show up. I expected Dane DeHaan to just fucking like fly up and punch him in the dick. That would have been entertaining, but that didn't happen. Next we have The Disaster Artist. Now this is a recent one that came out, but The Disaster Artist was fucking great. I loved it. I don't want to say too much. Go watch my review of it, where I talk about it a little more. To make a long story short, I love this movie. Next we have The Foreigner. The Foreigner was actually surprisingly very good. Jackie Chan kind of out of character a little bit. He was actually like murdering motherfuckers in this, and he was playing like a quiet little old man. There wasn't a whole lot of action in it, but it was more of a drama than an action film, which is I'm totally fine with. Jackie Chan did a great job. Pierce Brosnan did a great job other than his accent. I'm not an expert on Irish accents, but I don't think they sound like that, Pierce. But it was a really good movie. Next on my list is It. I don't like this movie. It's not... I don't understand why everyone liked this movie. It's not scary. It's not a scary movie. There was some cool imagery in it, like the opening with Pennywise and Georgie. That was fucking awesome. That was so cool. I was like, oh shit, this is the movie we're gonna get? Fuck yeah. And then there's nothing really that cool in the rest of the movie. Like, it has a dope fucking opening, but then everything else in it's just kind of like, all right, like, whatever. Wasn't scary. I wasn't scared. Didn't like the kid actors. I thought they were all kid actors. I like Ben, the little fat kid. I related to him. It was just kind of boring in some place. Like, nothing really happened. It wasn't scary. It wasn't tense. Like, maybe the sequel will be better. I don't know. Kingsman 2. Golden Circle. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I know people have been shitting on this movie since it came out, like, whatever. It's not as good as the first, whatever. I thought it was about on par with the first. I didn't like this one or hate this one more than the first one. I thought the first one was a lot of fun. I think this franchise is a lot of fun. So yeah, Kingsman 2, The Golden Circle is just as good as the first, and I love the first. So, The Last Jedi. I'm not going to talk about it here because I'll get into a massive fucking rant. So go watch my review of it, where I actually do rant about it for half an hour. Thelma, not Selma, Thelma. It sounds like I'm saying something with a lisp. This is a foreign movie that I just recently watched. It's so fucking bizarre and so weird. I can't even really like describe to you what it's about. I know what it's about, but it's kind of, it's hard to explain without making it sound like bullshit. But I actually kind of enjoyed it quite a bit. It wasn't fantastic or like phenomenal or anything, but I actually really kind of enjoyed it. I think this is a Norwegian film. Everyone's speaking in Norwegian, which I don't think I've seen a Norwegian movie before, so this is new for me. But it was a really interesting movie, and I was into it for some reason. Batman vs. Two-Face. This is an animated movie, but I'm counting it because it came out this year and I watched it. This was fucking great. I love this. I love the previous Adam West animated movie as well. Return of the Cape Crusaders, that was fun. This one's kind of less of a parody than Return of the Cape Crusaders was. That was more kind of poking fun a little bit at the old show and Batman in general. This one was a little bit more of a regular movie. It did still have some parody elements in it, but this was definitely more of just a movie set in that world, and I was totally fine with that. And as a final performance from Adam West, it's kind of heartbreaking and it's kind of sad. The Promise. This was a very generic movie. It's one of those movies where like your grandma would probably watch and enjoy it, or my mom would watch and think it was great. It's very long. It's very boring. It's not bad. The performances in it are pretty great. Oscar Isaac's great in it. Christian Bale's great in it. It's just generic and long and boring. And last but not least, apparently Gold came out this year. I don't think it did, but I looked it up and apparently it came out this year. It came out in like January. And it wasn't that great. I like Matthew McConaughey, but it wasn't that great of a film. So that's my recap of movies of 2017. There are still some movies that I have yet to see that have just came out like yesterday that I hopefully will get around to seeing, that I still want to see before I make my whole top 10 list video. This was just kind of going back and talking about some of the movies that I've seen that I haven't yet talked about from this year. So that's it.